Hello, LinkedIn, and welcome to the LinkedIn Live Lunchtime Show. I'm here today again, Audrey Duckworth, for your Ailsa ESG takeover. Jamie's birthday today, so happy birthday, Jamie. I know you're enjoying it. And I'm delighted to have with me today Derek Steele. Welcome to the show.
Good, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So before we get into who Derek is and how he can help businesses to save money, I'd like to first, as usual, thank our brilliant hosts here at Bold Media, Mango Media. Easy for me to say. You can tell it's the end of the week. So thanks to Andrew and Amelia at Bold Mango Media. Thank you. And then also, Derek, you've already seen these this morning. So thank you very much to Grow, our sponsors, with these amazing cakes. So what have you got there?
Mine's is a carrot cake with a nice iced topping.
Oh, the carrot cake's supposed to be very nice. And I have some sumptuous banoffee caramel type donut thing that I'm going to probably devour over a few days because it's so big. And what have you got to drink?
I've got just a standard caramel latte.
Well, I've gone to counteract my donut with an amazing Grow Berry, which is full of strawberries and all sorts of good stuff. So that's fantastic. So thanks again to our sponsors at Grow. So Derek, you are the cost-saving ninja. That's an interesting name. I never thought we'd have a ninja on the show. So do you want to tell me a wee bit about you, where you've started in life and where you are today?
Yeah, so I don't know where the ninja came from. I think I just didn't want to be a managing director. It sounded a bit too official, and somebody said you can call yourself whatever you want. So I was like, all right, well. And I always looked at a ninja as somebody that can do something that other people can't do, and I think that's what differentiates us, I hope, from other brokers, that we do things that other people don't do within our industry, because it's quite a murky industry at times. It's cutthroat, it's cold calling, it's harassing, it's it's mis-selling and all of that stuff, and that's thankfully not what we are.
No.
And that's what sets us aside from others. We don't do the cold calling, we don't harass, etc. We just do the right thing for the customer.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So the reason it all came about, I used to work in health and fitness for 12 years, and I personal trained an accountant who then got me to go and work in his accountancy. So I was shorts and t-shirt into a shirt and suit pretty quickly, and through that role we did a bit of procurement for the customers and stuff, and we looked after the bottom line, which is effectively making sure they're on the best spend. And it didn't work out in the accountancy, but I loved that skill, and I loved that just doing the right thing for the customer. They come in paying X amount of money, and within a few calls we were able to save them some money, and it was, I enjoyed that element of it. And like I said, it didn't work out with the accountancy, but when I left there, a friend of mine said, you could set up doing that yourself and actually make some money from it and actually run it as a business. Because at the time we just did it as, you were in for your accountancy, and we just did that to affect your bottom line. So it was retention for the accountancy clients, and we weren't really getting paid anything for it. But he said, you should be doing that as a business, you're quite good at that. So when I left there, I remembered Alan's conversation. I went and spoke with him, and we set up, I took 6 months off, and I built relationships direct with suppliers, and then we got into setting up our own business in 2016. January 2016 we first started selling, and it's just grown. It's actually 10 years ago just now, actually. Just realised that's a decade.
A decade of saving customers money.
A decade, yeah, saving customers millions of pounds over those years. So yeah, and it was tough at the beginning because we were just out and about, and I left the accountancy with a 5-week-old son, which wasn't best.
Jumped in the deep end.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but so necessity is the mother of all creation, I suppose. I think that's the saying. So we built the business, and I've never looked back since. I've worked for myself ever since, and like I said, we were fortunate enough that I came from a network marketing background as well, so I did a bit of that, so I kind of knew how to engage people into working for us. They all work self-employed, do commission only sales. So kind of built the model around that kind of network marketing model. So people come and they introduce business and they get paid for it, and we don't really have any overheads or any costs associated to it. If they work, they get paid. If they don't work, they don't get paid. And that's why we're slightly different to most, because we don't have big offices, we don't have call centres, we don't have expensive overheads, so we don't have to be greedy in our margins for our customers. We can minimise the savings, minimise the margins, and maximise the savings, for the customer, because we don't have many moving parts. So that's kind of
fantastic. And that's, you know, that's what it's all about. We're exactly the same in our own business at Ailsa. It's about where we can save money for customers and get them the best benefit. You know, that's what we're looking at. So it's interesting that you come along today, because yesterday, the other part of Ailsa ESG, we deliver Net Zero Nation accelerators. So yesterday we had our decarbonising Ayrshire session, which is everybody that's already set a baseline and they're working towards their carbon reduction plans now. And the session was about energy. So it's really interesting, because we were talking about not just infrastructure. So, for example, have you got the right insulation in your building? Is your office leaking energy? You know, is there wastage there? How can you look at your buildings and see, I might need new windows, or perhaps I've got problems with my doors. That's, you know, you're just actually wasting money there. But one of the things we started looking at as well was tariffs and energy and utilities, and how have you actually drilled down into those bills. So we're really good at taking all of our energy spend and costs and looking at that from a carbon saving point of view, but also if you're doing that, you're saving money. So we do look at bills in the first year of cohorts, but then we're starting to really sort of analyse that in the subsequent years. And it's very interesting, because you could be thinking you're doing the right thing. I know of companies that have EV chargers, for example, so they're doing the right thing in terms of the environment, but then if they're not implementing the correct technologies to be able to generate their own energy, then, you know, they could actually end up out of pocket, because it's coming straight out their electricity bills. So if I was a business coming to you, what sort of things would you do for me, if in terms of looking at my spend?
Yeah, well, the baseline, I guess, as you mentioned, that word is obviously just on the tariff first and foremost, to make sure we got you on the right rates, rolling over, staying loyal to a Scottish Power, a British Gas, or any other supplier is not really the most cost-effective way to do it. Having somebody manage that on a year-to-year basis and scouring the market for you is probably the baseline, to make sure that you're on the right tariff. Somebody's on the ball early, because most business owners, if they're not on the ball, they're just reactive at the time. They get an email in or a letter in to say, next week you're going to X tariff if you don't take this tariff just now, and they panic buy, and they end up just signing up to whatever the current supplier is offering them, which usually isn't the most cost effective. In fact, it's always more expensive to go that way. And that's so that's the baseline. Going in, if we can get in with a customer, we would diarise 6 months out from the end of their contract. We'd be looking at contacting them 6 months out to say, okay, Mr. Business Owner, we're now going to start looking at what we can do for you going ahead. If you get anything in, just forward it over to us. And that's just really the base of managing the tariffs and managing the contract renewals. What we can also do is we could analyse their energy consumption. If they are using heavily through the day and at night, and not so much at night, but they are working shifts, we could maybe we've said to business owners in the past, can you move that production to night time, and it will save you money, because it's hundreds of thousands of pounds in savings by moving one shift to the other and flipping them over. And we've saved businesses hundreds of thousands of pounds a year by just changing their shifts. So we can analyse kind of in depth to that level, you know, where you're getting into the nuts and bolts of the business.
It's amazing, because that's the other thing. We see that quite often on cohorts. We'll be talking about, you know, why do you need to do that process when you're doing it? Because that's when the cost is, you know, during the middle of the day. Could you run, say, for example, refrigeration processes in the evenings or through the night? And the amount of money that businesses can save just by making small changes. You're not actually having to, you know, put any capital spend in at all. You're just changing your process and thinking about the way you're doing things a bit smarter.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And then obviously bolting on the top of that, we could then look at what the overall consumption is and where that's coming from. So obviously we've got the net zero coming. Business owners are very aware of it. Some are very proactive again, some are going to be reactive. But selling green energy for a start, looking at things like maybe putting biomass heaters in, putting solar on the roofs, putting air source heat pumps in, combined heat and power units. Again, it's just very specific to the site, but we offer all of these kind of bolt-ons to just your normal energy brokerage. So it's more a holistic approach to it, and that's what I said. We pride ourselves on doing the right thing for the customer. The retention of the customer for us is critical. I'm a salesperson, but I'm quite a lazy salesperson. I quite like to have my sales give me fruit every year, rather than running around just selling and selling and selling and not really, and just always looking for my next sale, which I have done in previous roles. You're just constantly resetting on the first of the month and away you go again. I consciously made a decision with my business to make sure that I look after them properly so that when the renewals come round, that they're always got me in their mind, because I've been in the business, I've done the right thing, and I've offered so many more things than just a contract.
Absolutely.
And that's why we get referred business and retained business. We don't need to do thankfully we don't need to do the cold calling.
That's great.
So, yeah,
Well, it shows that it works, and that's
yeah.
the thing. If you're offering a good product at the outset and you are making that saving, you're offering that one-to-one, relationship with somebody.
Yeah.
Actually, you understand their business, you know what it is that they're doing, you can see where they can be making savings. Why wouldn't you stay with that person? That's
Yeah, it's
right.
just building that trust up with people. Like I said, it's a business owners get millions of calls every day, cold calls, especially with energy companies, and they're just bombarded by them all of the time. Thankfully, the vast majority of our, not Derek looks after our stuff, Derek looks after our stuff, stop calling me, stop calling me, and that's, I think, testament to the work we have done over the past 10 years in building these relationships with customers. And the only way we lose customers now is, unfortunately, if they go out of business. We retain pretty much 100% of our customers, which is pretty good, I think.
Fantastic.
It's
That's fantastic. Absolutely.
It's pretty good. So,
And what about we were talking yesterday about the different tariffs and how you can actually, if you're overproducing, if you have some sustainable technology and you may be using green tech, like
yep.
you've got solar panels on your site, or if you're lucky enough to have a wind turbine or whatever like that. What about battery storage? Is that something you've come across?
Battery storage is pretty big. So the markets that we're now kind of into is the more tendering into production factories and stuff like that. So high consumers. So battery storage, again, we'd go into that and look at, can we switch the shifts to make them more efficient in the evening? But we could set up batteries to charge them through the night on the cheaper tariff. Again, making sure that we get, if that was a plan, we would go with a supplier who gives us the best off-peak rate. So it's already put the contract in place with a view to storage batteries down the line, so that they're charge the batteries through the day and use that power through the night, or we can charge them up, during the daylight and just use the batteries at night time if they're working. So there's many. It's not a one size fits all. It's dependent on exactly how the mechanics and the makeup of that business. Some people don't even work. They only do 9 to 5. They don't do night shifts. So again, we can just store up through the night and then just use that for the 8 or 9 hours. Again, it's very bespoke. They're not cheap, these batteries. They're very expensive. So again, we would run the cost analysis to say, well, your return on investment is going to be in 4 years' time. You'll have paid this off fully. You'll be generating 70-80% of your own energy. Therefore, you're only at the mercy of 20% for the market fluctuations. Wars in Ukraine and Donald Trump invading everywhere, and these things we're at the mercy of. The market is at the mercy of all these external things, and the poor customer at the other end pays the penalty.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely. And I think that's something that we're very clear on through decarbonising inertia as well. When we were having that chat, we were saying, the problem is that actually you want to be in control of your own destiny as far as energy is concerned, because a huge fluctuation, which we've seen, can mean that overnight your energy costs have become unsustainable for your business. You're reliant on your income, but actually if your outgoing suddenly goes triples sometimes overnight, then that can be disastrous for SMEs. So I think the more that you can do to have your own energy production actually within your business, your office, thinking about working together as well collaboratively with other businesses. So have you ever seen a situation where you've gone in and say it's like a retail area where you're actually supplying a whole group of businesses or offices or anything like that? Have you ever come across that?
I mean, we would look at it. We don't have anything like that on the books at the moment where we do like a buying power, or, you would buy the energy for the whole site and then apportion off to everybody. Power purchase agreements. There are things like that we could look into. There's a company we partnered with a wee while back down south that do power purchase agreements. So we could look into doing things like that.
I think
got
it's
strategic
certainly
partners for things like that.
Yeah, I do think that's the way that we're looking for the future. I always think, one of the things from what that I worked with previously in a past life would have been energy from waste. And it's crazy to think how many places could be using energy together collectively, and making the benefit from either energy from waste, or maybe if you have a biomass unit, you on your own might not have the funds to put in that capital investment for the biomass. But if you've got a few units within the same area, everybody chip in together, everybody run that and get the benefit of it, along with tariff, obviously. So.
Yeah, there's a thing with the carbon credits that you get with your biomass, and people are actually selling those back to the market. So that then affects, so they're generating these carbon credits and offsetting, and they then can sell the carbon credits on to other businesses who can't generate. So it just offsets a little bit of their own. So people are actually getting the money back for their capital investment by selling the capital credits, the carbon credits on to other businesses like an Amazon or something, because
they need lots.
they need lots. So I know people are kind of looking into that route of selling the benefits that they're getting. So and again, it just offsets that capital expenditure, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think as well, there are quite a lot of grants at the moment that are available when you're thinking about what you can be putting in. So I know, again, just from what we were speaking about with councils yesterday, if you speak to your business development manager at the council, and most companies will have somebody they're in contact with, and they can help you with advice about, if you're wanting to put in some sort of green tech to go along with your tariff. So for example, if you're thinking about biomass, there'll be funding available that you could actually tap into, and they'll help you with signposting you to the right place, and then obviously getting your applications in. But some of the grant funding that's available is really great and to help SMEs.
It is. It's great, and the problem is it's quite a fluid thing. So sometimes you'll get in South Ayrshire, for example, where we are, you'll have funding for biomass, but it only lasts for 3 months, and then they kind of pull the plug. So you go in and say to somebody, "Oh, there's funding for this," and by the time you get in, the pot's gone. But usually maybe need to go to a national thing or something. But there's definitely, like I said, it's something that I could get today. It's probably not going to be here in June. They come and go very, very quickly. The pots dry up. But again, it's just speaking to people and asking the question, going to the councils and saying what is on offer just now. And again, we could maybe mould that to, well, that was on offer. It's not on offer, but they're now offering this, and that may change the whole landscape of the route we go down, because we can maybe get solar funding rather than the biomass funding. So again, that would be a conversation we would have with the business owner.
And it's great that you can do that cost benefit analysis for the business as well. I think that's a real positive on what you're doing as a business as well. So definitely.
I think it's like I said, we've tried to set ourselves a little bit different, and we're moving with the time. Well, we're trying not to be stagnant. I'm kind of new to the solar thing, 10 years doing this. It took me 5 years or so before I started to really look into solar. And again, there was a murky time with solar and the tariffs, etc., and it was being missold, and I didn't really like that ethos. But I think when they pulled all the and the tariffs and stuff, and people had to self-fund for it. It just became more level playing field. You know, you can go in and say, well, this is what your unit's costing you. This is what we're, you know, your return on investment will be X, and people just they're quite happy with it. It was I didn't really like the landscape of it, but I like it now because it's a lot more.
We have some great examples of companies within Ayrshire as well. There's a couple that have been on the cohorts as well, Green Home Systems, and we've got Stuart Temperature as well down in Ayr, and CK Energy in Kilmarnock. So there's loads of really good local companies that can help you with these things too. So that would work really nicely alongside your tariffs if they're installing things, and then obviously you can offer the best tariff.
Yeah, no, it isn't. It's not about me being able to, you know, be able to do everything, jack of all trades. I'm good at what I do, and it's about pulling people in that can benefit the overall project, not just me trying to pull all the strings, because I did try and do that when I first started my business and be the jack of all trades and doing everything, which is a nightmare.
I
But
can only imagine.
now I'm a bit more comfortable in my own skin, and I can say that's not my area of expertise. However, I can speak to CK Energy and they can come in and together we'll put the package together. So I'm comfortable with asking for help for people who are a bit more expertise than myself.
That's a great strength as well, though. I think, you know, like there are too many times when a company will promise you the earth and then not deliver. And I think you've got to be realistic and know where your strengths lie and where your expertise is. And so certainly. And you can rely on plenty of Ayrshire companies to help you out.
Relationship building and then pulling the whole project together, I think, is where my strength is as well. So building the clients and then pulling in the right people to build it. I go to a BNI networking, so again, I like that. People referring with confidence. You know, you've got people that you can bring in that you've got 100% confidence with, that you can set loose with your client base. Is also good as well.
Great. Oh, fantastic. So what would you say, have you got like a top 3 tips or something for companies that you can think of?
To be on the ball, really, you know, as you said, in the good old days when energy was pretty stagnant, the prices were fine. You know, it was just a case of the renewal came in and they just let it roll on, and that was fine. Being more proactive means that you're not going to get hit by crazy out of contract prices, because it could be double your current rate by just being a month and out of contract rates to some of these big consumers is tens of thousands of pounds.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, just by rolling over. So, you know, getting a good broker, somebody who is on the ball, and it doesn't have to be me, but someone who's, you know, on the ball.
Other services are available.
Somebody who's on the ball and who's, you know, who is in contact with you and contacts you 6 months before. I would say 6 months before. Anybody that contacts you a bit longer than that is just trying to get a sale over the line. That sweet spot for me is between 6 months out and 3 months out. We start to do the work. So being ahead of the game, and what else? That was actually my third one. Being ahead of the game and just having trust at somebody, actually, you know, because a lot of business owners we go into, we have to rebuild trust because they have been burned and they've picked up the phone and they've answered somebody over the phone and they've maybe been busy. This is the best rate, and they've been hoodwinked into, you know, a contract, and it's just having that trust with a broker that you trust, and if you trust them, stick with them. You know, and you know, don't. Some people just jump about, shiny object syndrome, and then they come back 3 years later when their contract's finished and with their tail between their legs. And I've had that countless times, you know, where they maybe go off for a wee period of their contract, but they'll come back because they've been burned, they've been sold something that they weren't promised. So if you trust a broker, you know, stick with them. Be alert. Be aware of your renewal dates and stuff like that. Be proactive. And just really be diligent with regards to when you're consuming, what you're consuming, and get your staff on board as well. You know,
absolutely.
They make sure that it sounds. It used to sound daft when I didn't work in this industry. Make sure everybody's turning the lights off after them, and all the units are all turned off, because they're massive energy wastage, as you said,
Yeah.
that goes unnoticed unless you're paying the bill.
It's
Then you notice.
insane if you think about just the little things that you can do. That again, this was stuff that we had gone over during the decarbonising Ayrshire session. But it's literally, has somebody done a shutdown at the end of the day when they leave an office?
Yeah.
Are computers switched off? Have you switched off your photocopiers? Have you switched off if the heating system is on? Is it on its timer?
Yep.
Have you switched off all the lights? That amount, all those wee tiny things that you don't think are actually add up to a heck of a lot in terms of kilowatts.
Yep.
and your carbon impact. So just making wee changes like that, again, nothing that you need to do in terms of spend, it's just thinking about it. But I totally agree. It's so funny how people don't focus on things that they're paying for. They
Yep.
just pay the bill and they don't think about it. And part of our accelerators is about looking at those costs and actually looking at it month to month, because it's so important. You
Yep.
don't want to end up, as you say, coming to the end of a period and realising I've been paying way too much for this, or somehow my tariff has changed and I've not realised because I've not been on the ball. And then you come to the end of the year and you've got this huge bill that you didn't realise and you've not accounted for. So I think, again, just looking on a kind of monthly basis at your spend and thinking, is there anything I could do? Why has that gone up? It's not just the carbon impact, it's the costs.
Yep.
And that's what we're looking at, is to try and reduce those costs and make businesses more competitive and save the money in the process.
Yeah, exactly. We found a big upturn in people coming back to us who maybe we'd went out, had been referred before the energy crisis. Sorry, before COVID, we'd been referred to them and they'd said, "Oh, I was too busy. It is what it is. We're paying what we're paying. I'm all right with my bills." Then when the tills stopped ringing, the hotels weren't able to take bookings and stuff like that. And suddenly looked back and went, "Have I been paying that amount for
I know,
long?"
for so long.
So we'd quite an influx of clients along those times, and then the energy crisis as well. Nobody accepts it, so it has been a good thing. Nobody now accepts off the cuff their renewal rates because they're usually astronomical. So everybody's always looking for a better rate, a better solution, and we can provide that and do all the legwork and do all the work in the background, allowing the business owner to run their business.
Fantastic.
And not
Take
worry
the pain
about
out of
yeah,
it for them.
take the pain, take the pain away from it. So
And what happens, is there ever a scenario where you can get out of a contract, say that you didn't realise that you signed up for 3 years or 5 years on a fixed rate and it's changed massively, or is that just you're kind of stuck?
Controversial.
Oh, is it? I brought the controversy to the show. Not like me.
So, I mean, I have listened to phone calls and can clearly hear mis-selling, and the Energy Ombudsman will uphold the contract pretty much every time.
Okay, so you're stuck.
So you're stuck.
Yeah.
And it's your voice on the contract, and you can hear your voice, and
Yeah.
it's not good. The Energy Ombudsman's supposed to be there to protect you, but I have never seen them protect a customer yet.
Right, okay. Well,
That's my experience.
yeah.
That's just my experience.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of really terrible mis-selling over the phone. As I said, business owners, they're busy, they're in the middle of the service, or they're in the middle of, doing whatever they're doing, and get caught on the phone, and before they know it, they've signed up to 5 years at an astronomical price, and
Yeah.
they're saying, yes, I agree to that rate and stuff like that, but I can tell it's mis-sold. So yeah, no, there's no really any way out of a contract if you are really, unless,
No,
like I said,
not
I've never
really.
known the ombudsman. So that's why we don't try to push long-term contracts as well. 1 or 2 years is fine. Just so that you can manage it in a
But also, it's
ongoing
best to
basis.
check with you first. So
Yeah, of course.
there's no harm in coming to you and saying, look, I've got this deal, I think it's good. What do
Yeah.
you think?
Yeah.
And then you can analyse it for them and give them the best advice.
100%. Like I said, I'm comfortable doing that for a customer for a start, and I've also got a lot of direct relationships with suppliers, so we're direct with them. I am not direct with a couple of huge suppliers, and I have to outsource to another aggregator who has them, and more often than not, it's British Gas and EDF, and I don't have direct with them, so I will outsource them through another aggregator if it's right for the customer, and I'll say, listen, I can get you X, Y, and Z, but I'm going to place you with this guy because they actually have a better rate because I don't have it, so I will always be open and transparent with the customer, and again, that's how we retain the customer. You know,
it's what makes you different.
That's what makes us slightly different. Because I could go down the route of forcing the ones that I'm direct with, and not give off a portion of our commission, but it's not right for the customer. So we then pull in again those strategic relationships we've got with other people who have these relationships, because we are, as much as we do a good job, we're just a wee small fish in a big market. So British Gas, for example, they're not interested in us, and that's fine. But we have a big huge supplier who has a link with them, so we can piggyback into them if it's right for the customer, and send them down that way. So we'll always give the right advice, whether it's, stick with where you're at, or or stick with what you've been offered, or going with another provider and pulling in them as well. So
brilliant.
we'll
That's
always try and
great.
do the best thing.
Fantastic. Have you got anything else that you want to mention before we close for today?
No.
No?
Like I said, we pride ourselves on not doing any of the cold calling. If we get an intro with a customer, we'll contact them obviously straight away and get the ball rolling. And we always leave the ball in the customer's court. If I get past your details, for example, I'll make contact, we'll have an initial, and then I'll say, I need X, Y, and Z from you. And then maybe do a wee follow up after that. But you're not going to get hounded. You're not going to get barraged by calls, and we just leave it in your court.
I don't need to delete you from the phone.
No, because I get these calls myself, and I know what happens. What my blood boils when I'm getting all these numbers. I'm like, not again. So, and I would hate to. And like I said, I've done that in the past, from various different sales roles, and it was just the way the companies that I worked for at the time did it, and it didn't sit well with me. But it kind of made me know that I didn't want to do that within my own business when I went out. So we always leave things, we'll always make contact, we'll always do the right thing, but the ball's always in the customer's court until we get the green light, and then we're ferocious on behalf of the customer. We'll go and get them the best rates or the best solution.
Brilliant.
Out there.
Oh well, it's certainly an ethos that sits very well with me, and I don't think there's any harm in people who are thinking about that. That sometimes when you're looking at your utilities and brokerage, you're thinking, oh, am I going to be waylaid? And it doesn't sound like that at all from your side of things. So, well, listen, thank you so much for coming in today. I've really enjoyed your chat, and I hope that's been helpful to everybody listening and watching. So, normal service resuming next week with Jamie back. So thank you all for your time, for listening and watching. Cheers now. Bye-bye.
Thank you.